Welcome back, everybody. Insanity Check in the house. Ken and Skillet Sauce right back at you with our original engineer, 8 in the house. No applause for you, 8.
You miss doing this, don't you?
He misses us.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think you miss us, man.
We were talking with
Mr. Dude at the show after us even more.
Get out of here.
We were talking with 8 before we came on the air, and the subject of Lance Armstrong came up. By this time tomorrow, I believe, Lance Armstrong will have sat down with the most powerful.
No, he already did it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, it will air.
It'll air tomorrow.
Yeah, well, with the most powerful person in America, that would be one Oprah Winfrey. For some reason now, and I believe Skillet will be shedding some light on that, Lance has decided to come clean about not being clean. He has pleaded and begged to anyone who will listen to him.
No, he did more than that. He did more than that. He was very, 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 very aggressive with anyone that came after him, threatening in some instances to baseball bat dudes' wives and all kind of shit. You know, like have his people baseball bat people. I mean, he was very aggressive towards those that wanted to basically out him for being a PED user.
Which is performance-enhancing drugs, for those who are not familiar. Now, but according to our inside source, not only was Armstrong juicing, his team was juicing, the whole sport is juicing. Which begs the question, you know, why admit it now?
Now, well, I think he's trying to admit it now. Well, first of all, 8, did you want to ask anything about this before I even answer the question as far as the why now?
You know what? I don't necessarily not ask anything, but my thing is more along the lines of just opinion. I really feel that, you know, obviously someone had enough on him for him to want to, you know, come forward with this story. Whether we hear about it or not, I feel that someone has to have enough on him. And the reason why I say that is because at the end of the day, even though, whatever his motives is for coming out, Lance Armstrong clean is a brand like no other. You know, and whether you're doing charities, whether you're, you know, trying to sell something for the future or, you know, whatever it is, he's going to lose a lot of money with this.
Well, I mean, of course he's going to lose a lot of money, but when you're talking about somebody had something on him, I mean, this whole thing, it's just like Barry Bonds, who finally admitted that he unwillingly took steroids. So that was his ordeal.
I'm sorry. Unwillingly or unwittingly?
No, excuse me, unwittingly. Unwittingly, he didn't know because they gave him cream. So he thought it was just some analgesic balm or whatever like that, and it would actually, you know, go into his skin, however it was.
I tell females that too. Just rub it.
Rub it on.
Yeah. Yo, hit ball home runs and Barry Bonds.
But
start with these balls.
Like Roger Clemens never got busted, but people understand during that era, like Sammy Sosa never got busted. But if you see a dude that's 210 pounds one season, the next season he's 240 with like 2% body fat, and he's hitting the ball, and the skin is coming off the ball and everything, you know what it is, even though they didn't get busted. Just like I said, Marion Jones never actually got busted, but her husband had enough steroids in him to turn him into a gorilla, literally. And he was like, oh, I took, you know, some Sudafed or some shit like that. It was like, come on, man. So Lance Armstrong, they didn't have enough. If they had enough to bust him outright, as far as in just say, okay, you failed the test, but they couldn't. Like he said, he passed all the tests because they have the controls to beat these tests. But what it was former teammates came out and dropped dime on him. And then when they did that, it was a situation to where you lied to a federal investigative board, okay? Because if this dude's saying you did do it and you're saying you didn't, but in actuality you did, then you told lies to this investigative board, and that's why he got this lifetime ban. So by him coming out right now and going, look, okay, you know, I did it, I don't know exactly how, I don't know if he dropped names, you know, as far as in his teammates or whatever, but the actual cycling board, the governing body, the international governing body was like, look, if you dime out the other people, the big wigs, forget your teammates. If you dime out some of the big wigs that was complicit, then maybe we could lift your ban, because I know he had a lifetime ban, and I think they said the most it could be reduced to is like 8 years or something like that. And he still wants to compete. He still wants to go into triathlons and marathons and things like that. That he cannot. He's banned from anything like that. So
well,
no, I mean, look, as far as to me, the thing that gets me the most is there was, because I watch the Tour de France every year, and they had this sort of like wattage meter thing that you would put around your chest and put these, the sensors on your body, and they would basically have a graph that would show how many amps your body was generating when you were climbing hills and doing all sorts of, some seriously scientific studies on, how much power output you were putting, and how your heart rate and everything. And as of, I believe it was 2010, they stopped using the technology. And it wasn't because the technology was flawed or it was causing irritation to the riders. It was showing that basically everybody who was in the elite class were superhuman. These guys' heart rates, and it was like damn near, it was just between their heart rate and the amount of energy these dudes was putting out, and then coming back the next day to ride another 120 kilometers. It was just showing beyond the shadow of a doubt that these people are all superhuman. So they just basically threw away the technology, because you can be a clean cyclist. You could say, I'm going to be, get a nutritionist, do all your rest, take every legal supplement you can, all the health food, the juicing and everything, and you will be able to complete the course, but you won't be able to complete it in the times that these guys are completing it in, and also you won't be able to recover and come back the very next day and be at that level again. That shit is not normal. That no human being can do that. So it's a level playing field. Everyone is doing it. All of the elite guys are doing it.
Now, you ride your bike often.
Yeah.
Have you ever
thought about?
Yeah. Just to get to the station quicker, because usually it takes you a long time.
Oh, no, that's just because I don't give a shit. No, that's just because I don't care. That's just my lack of care. But no, I've actually thought of taking the supplement called Ultramax Gold. No, it's made by Ultramax Gold. It's called Ageless something. And what it basically does is it's supposed to be some sort of thing like DHEA. It's something along the lines of making your own body trick itself to thinking that it needs to generate a little bit more growth hormone. Again, at my age, which is, it's not going to happen. But supposedly this thing is supposed to be able to do some sort of tricks inside of your body. But yeah, I would never go so far as to do something that's going to impact me and maybe, cause me to go out like Lyle Alzado went out, disintegrating from within until he eventually dropped dead at what, like 42, 43, something like that? 44. Yeah, I'm not, crying on the Arsenio Hall show, bald-headed, brain being eaten out. Nah.
But you would take something that would do tricks inside your body.
Yeah, well, no, I have taken certain things that, but not the kind of tricks you're talking about. See, you're talking about them tricks for the other show. You think I'm stupid. You think I'm stupid. Now I'm talking about supplements. You talking about Big Duke and the boys.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I know what you talking about.
So is he gonna? I think he said supposedly he outed like everybody else or something like that.
No, they didn't say anything. See, there haven't been any details. Floyd Landis, who was the guy that that won, I believe, in 2006, who did something that was so stupid. You see, it's like if you're going to cheat, it's like I'm of the belief that all Olympic speed, most of those Olympic athletes are on some stuff. That's why when they busted the Chinese swim team, they were like, oh, 1 year. It was like, we're not even leaving. We're not even going to compete because we want to protest. But all of them was mad diesel and trucked out. They knew they was going to get busted. They busted a bunch of Greek athletes for that reason. And like Bolt, all those dudes running at 9.5 and shit, them motherfuckers are on something. All right. My thing is, it's if you think of the guy that ratted him out, which is Landis. Landis made up 8 minutes in one leg. I can't begin to explain to you how ridiculous that is. It's like if you can imagine someone running, a 200-meter race, and the world-class standard, let's say, is, I believe it's like 19:30, something like that, 19.30 seconds, right? if a person all of a sudden at the peak of their power was running, 20, and then all of a sudden came back the next year and ran that in 14 seconds, you're overdoing it. You're basically letting people know that you're completely fake. And this guy did something, and then he tried to say he had a chimera, a twin, an evil. He said he was a twin, and he had some rare disorder where his twin would manifest itself, thus causing his testosterone to increase and jump during that period of time when he was being tested.
Why did you just say he was on crack, man?
I mean, he literally went through hell and high water. He bankrupted himself trying to prove this chimera case, and then eventually he was like, you know what, I'm lying. I was on that shit. So basically, he didn't want to go down in super flames, so he started diming out everybody else.
So basically, we have to wait, because I'm just wondering, because as you always say, everyone in cycling is on the stuff, but yet Armstrong was still winning. So that basically means that if you magically rip out all the juice from all of these people, Armstrong would still be winning.
Yes.
Just not setting crazy, ridiculous
exactly.
records.
What it is when I say it's a level playing field, if this guy could beat you by, if his total time for the race, let's say, just for blank standard, let's say it was 20 hours, right? 20 hours for the entire race. And his best competitor would be able to make it in 21 hours, right? Because the lower the time, the better. Off the juice, Lance would probably be 28 hours, and his next best competitor would be 30 hours. You see what I'm saying? So he was still better than a lot of these guys, just because I remember they did this test when they were testing his lactic acid buildup, and for whatever reason, this dude, when lactic acid starts to build up in his muscles, he just somehow, I don't know how they explained it. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I'm not those things, but they said somehow his body was able to absorb the acid to where it wasn't burning and breaking down the muscle, so he was able to go in the red for much longer. You see, so look, they're all taking that stuff, because someone else had brought up a point. I don't know if it was you or if it was Delumix, and he said, how come you don't have any other, like, now that he's coming out, you don't hear any bad tweets or anything from other cyclists? You don't have any other cyclists going, yo, wait a second, man, I was ripped off. You mean this dude competed, he cheated for seven Tour de France victories? Well, he cheated me. Because you notice in football, all those people that lost to the Patriots are bitter. They're like, you guys cheated. You cheated me out of my ring, my opportunity. They're bitter. You don't hear any cyclist that's not being investigated coming out going, yo, wait a minute, man, Lance is a dirty dude.
But this is kind of fresh, though. I mean, he just
Man, these dudes all knew. Even when Landis came out and got busted, listen, the guy that came in second twice, 5 times. He came in. He took the number 2 spot 5 times against Lance. His name was Jan Ulrich. They said they was changing. Now Lance had retired, so you figure this dude is like, yeah, he's retired. I was number 2 all the time. I'm gonna be number 1 the next year. He immediately protested. He and 2 other guys that were like top guys. They were like, oh no, we're protesting because they changed the test protocols. So they was like, yo, it was something that they didn't know if they could beat or not. So rather than getting discovered and discrediting everything that you've done, they said, oh, on the grounds of protest, we retire. So they never were able to get busted, because if they raced and got busted, oh, now it's going to call into question all of your accomplishments, like they're doing with Lance. So you don't have other cyclists really coming out because they all know. I remember that story when we went to New Orleans. Was your brother and what's this, and he said when he wanted to train for the Olympics, they remember he said they gave him a box and said, you take this.
Yeah.
And he was like, what is this? Don't worry about what it is, but if you want to train,
this was Haiti.
Yeah, this was the Haitian track team, but he was training with Russians. Remember, he was training with Russians. He wasn't the trainer was a Russian guy. And he presented him, he was on the Haitian team trying to make the Olympics. I believe it was in the 110 hurdles. I believe it was. I think it was the hurdles. And the guy said, here, you take this. He's like, well, what is this? And it was a bunch of chemicals in a syringe. And he was like, no, that's what you take. And he decided, he was like, I'm not going to do that. You're not on the team. You can make that stance, because there was another cyclist that decided, he said, you know what, he was on the U.S. Postal Team, and he said, yo, I'm not taking these drugs. And they was like, all right, well, you obviously ain't going to be able to make the time, so he was out of cycling. because you're a liability. Okay, fine, you want to be clean, but if you could somehow be clean and keep up with us and do what you need to do as part of the Maojurin, which are basically the helpers, you know, sometimes they have to get in front and they have to draft the guy that's the number one. If you, however you get to doing that, if you can do that clean, they won't care. It's can you make these times? And so far, the clean dudes have not been able to do that, so they wind up falling by the wayside because it's not possible. The things that these guys are doing makes no sense without them steroids.
Well, guess Lance is going to have a lot to answer for. Hopefully, Oprah will get kind of black on him and, you know, start rolling her neck.
No, she said she was cool with him. She said she was cool with him. She said he answered some things in ways that she thought was different, but
different. The fuck is different?
I don't know. I mean, we just have to wait and see.
Yeah.
We just have to wait and see. We just have to.
Anyway, since we were kind of long-winded this show, that will be.
Oh well, hold on a second. See, someone's telling me that that a New Zealand cyclist had ratted out Armstrong 8 years ago. Armstrong was first ratted out back in the late 90s. The first time he had turned up, you know, just to answer to this thing, was the late 90s. So I believe that this New Zealand dude had ratted him out as well as a bunch of others. Nothing could stick. The dude was like the Teflon Don. Nothing could stick. It's not like he hasn't had, because think of it this way, Greg LeMond has been against Lance Armstrong from the very beginning because he believes that the reason Lance Armstrong lost his testicle was because he was taking the then grade of steroids, which was like really bad. That's that Lauzedo shit that, you know, just kills your ass. So this dude has been under the microscope since the 90s for being a doper, because he was also one of the most, first of all, he was American in his sport, which in itself a lot of the French cyclists and the French higher-ups didn't like. Number two, he was arrogant. It's like, okay, know your role. We're all doping, but show some humility. He was like, no, fuck that. I'm not showing any humility. You know, I'm so-and-so, blah, 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 blah. And he burned a lot of bridges. So people have been coming in against this guy for years. And there's a lot of people that didn't want to believe he was on steroids. But those are only people that don't know a goddamn thing about this kind of cycling. Because everyone that knows anything, they know that all of these guys are dirty, dirty, dirty. To my point, that makes them clean. Because if everybody is taking super juice, then it's a legal race, in my opinion.
That's what I say about all sports, but, you know, what do I know? Anyway, folks, thanks a lot. You've been inundated with tons of information. You can sift through that over and over again on our YouTube channel, Insanity Check Radio. You can get the links for these ridiculous stories at Twitter, Insanity Check 12.
I put him up now. So.
And, of course, you can ask us questions or rebut whatever we have said here on
rebut the shit story. You got to rebut the shit story, huh?
On Insanity Check at Facebook. Thanks for coming through. We'll be back next week, and grab those guns.
Later.
We're trying to